What is DMZ? Well, it's a first-person, open sandbox, PvEvP extraction-based shooter within the Call of Duty franchise. Now, I know there are a lot of beginner guides already out there, but things are always changing with new features being added, so I thought it'd be great to touch on all new and existing features within the DMZ for both new and returning players. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below or come by my live stream on the weekends where I answer viewer questions. We also have an amazing community on Discord with over 1,000 members. Make sure to check that link in the description below. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the beginner's guide. Now, in order to access DMZ, you're first going to launch Call of Duty, whether that's on Xbox, PlayStation, Battle.net, or Steam. You're then going to head to the side here and move down to the Warzone section. Once you're here, locate DMZ and you're in. Once inside, you'll be greeted with this screen. Now, the first thing we're going to do is get into the character and stash basics. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to the top here and click Active Duty. This is essentially your character wallet, weapon key, and items inventory stash. Note, many of these items and features are not immediately available and may require missions or level experience to unlock, which we'll go over later. On the left, we have our character slot, also known as Active Duty slots. You have 3 of these by default, but can acquire more of these slots with real money purchases for DMZ bundles. Now, the other 2 slots are originally empty, so we'll want to select an open slot, then click an unused character and desired outfit. Once you've done so, you'll want to go back and you'll be able to see that you now have a second character slot filled. Now, the purpose of character slots are that they each hold their own unique set of items, which are as follows: backpack, kill streak, armor vest, gas/scuba mask, and lastly, you have your self-revive. Now, on top of those, you also have up top here what's known as an Exfil Streak, which we can go into in just a moment. Now, if you go back to the main menu and you press the button here next to Exfil Streaks, you'll bring this up. And what this is as you do things within the DMZ, specifically contracts, you will earn perks for that operator, so keep that in mind. Now, the purpose of active duty operator slots is so that you can gear up a character and switch to another character, so you can store and essentially stash things like backpacks, kill streaks, armor vests, gas masks, and self-revives for future DMZ runs. Next, we're going to talk about the contraband stash, which you can see up here is listed, and we have 19 out of 20 inside. To access the contraband stash, you're going to want to click one of these 2 weapon slots right here, whether a weapon exists there or not. Once you click that, you're going to be brought to this screen. Now, once you're at this screen, you're going to be greeted with 2 different sections. The top section is going to be the Insured Weapons slots, and the bottom section is going to be your contraband stash. Insured slots, on the other hand, are your own personal weapons that can be customized, and if lost, will be recharged and available again after a set amount of time. The set default times for these is 1 hour for first slot, 2 hours for second slot, and 3 hours for third slot. To change the weapon in the insured slot, you'll need to go to the slot and press the change button as seen here. This will then bring you to Call of Duty's entire arsenal of weapons, which will allow you to go in and customize weapons as you see fit. We can then select any weapon we have unlocked like so. This then replaces the current weapon with your newly selected weapon. Afterwards, you can then modify the weapon by selecting Gunsmith above. Once inside the Gunsmith, you can attach and remove components of a weapon like so. We can put on a scope, we can put on a barrel, we can put on a muzzle, anything that we've unlocked for this weapon. You can view the weapons progression tree by selecting the platform weapon progression button as seen here. Now, once you're inside the tree, you will see a weapon platform's entire family tree. And if you go over each of your desired weapons, you will then see all the different unlocks that you will get if you progress with this weapon. Keep in mind, this family tree will seem quite complex, and in some ways it is, but with time you will come to understand it. Now, make sure after you've created your weapon, you select it so that it is now equipped. Next, you'll want to set your tactical, lethal, and field upgrade. For tacticals, we have a wide variety of options, with the most popular being the spotter scope, which helps you identify targets within the DMZ. For lethals, we have even more options, but keep in mind, like all other features, not everything will be unlocked right away. However, if you hover over a locked item, you will see it telling you exactly what you need to do to unlock that. Lastly, we have the field upgrades, with the most common being the munitions box, as it's extremely helpful, but use whatever you prefer. Next is the wallet system. which you will access by selecting the $sign under the backpack section as seen here. Keep in mind that this system is locked when just starting out, but can be unlocked via the upgrade section, which we'll go over later. This wallet allows you to store money obtained in the DMZ, which you can then pull from to bring back in with you. This can be very handy for reacquiring lost gear or assisting with mission completions, though keep in mind if you carry too much money in the DMZ, you may become the target of a hunt contract. Lastly in here, we need to go over the item and key stash, which holds mission items and keys. This can be selected by picking an empty slot in your backpack. Here, you will have your mission items. Currently it is empty, but if you do find dark blue items and extract them out of the DMZ, they'll be stored here. Now, likewise, if you find dark blue keys and extract them out of the DMZ, those will be located here, which you can then go ahead and select to bring in with you to the DMZ. Now, if we exit the active duty area and go back to the home screen, we can move to the next important area of DMZ labeled as mission objectives. This area has 4 sections, which are going to be labeled as missions, upgrades, location objectives, and notes. Now inside missions, we are going to have multiple factions being Shadow Company, Black Mouse, White Lotus, Phalanx, and Crown, though you cannot access Crown unless you own Modern Warfare 2. Now within each faction, they have a reputation level as seen right here. These reputation levels can be increased by doing missions. If you look at the first mission here, you'll see this is a tier 1 mission called Thinning the Herd, which gives you plus 100 reputation to Shadow Company. Now there are 6 basic missions under each faction with a final story mission at the end. Now this story mission cannot be unlocked until you meet its prerequisites as seen here. And in this case, it's to reach reputation level 3 with Shadow Company. Now in order to reach reputation level 3, you need 300 reputation to hit that level 3. So if you do at least 3 missions as seen here, you will get it from level 2 to level 3. Next is the upgrade section. Upgrades are similar to missions in which you have objectives that need to be completed within the DMZ, often being items that must be collected and extracted with. There are a ton of upgrades that will increase things like your wallet size, stash size, etc. This is also how you unlock your second and third insured slots. Next is the location objectives. This is where you can view your progress for things like weapon cases, as well as the special Koshei complex weapon reward. Now the notes section, these are often mostly just little notes that you can find throughout the DMZ that essentially expand upon the lore and story, though sometimes you may need to come here for certain missions. Now once you're ready to enter the DMZ, you'll want to press deploy, but before doing so, you have a small option at the bottom called Squad Fill. If you leave this on, you will enter the DMZ with 2 random players that will be placed on your team. If you turn this option off, you will enter the DMZ solo with no teammates. But keep in mind that going in solo does not mean that other teams will be solo. You will still encounter teams larger than yourself. So this is best suited for experienced players or those looking for a challenge. Now after you press deploy, you're going to be presented with multiple maps. There are currently 5 maps in the DMZ, one being Vondel, which is more of a PvE focused map. Next being Ashika Island, which is a small map that's very PvP focused. Third being Al Mazrah, which is PvEVP focused and the largest map by a long shot. Now, there's also one called Koshei Complex, which can actually only be entered from going inside of Al Mazrah first. Then lastly, we have Building 21, which is extremely PvP focused, only open on the weekends, and requires a key. Missions will often ask you to go to specific maps, so eventually you'll want to become familiar with them all. Now when you load into DMZ, you are spawned in a set position. The same is said for all other teams. Now it is often important to have an idea of the nearest spawns to you in order to stay safe. Because since the DMZ is a PvEVP game, you may have hunters try and push you at the start. If you would like to avoid this, I suggest moving towards the center of the map immediately. Now you can check where the spawn locations are by using WARZONETACMA.ONLINE, but be aware sometimes spawn locations change from season to season, so you may need to come back and refer to this after an update. Next, we'll need to talk about a place you'll be visiting very often within the DMZ, which will be marked on the map like this. These markers indicate where a buy station is, as well as a workbench. These stations have multi-uses, the ability to buy several items for cash, also buy weapons for cash, sell items that you have, and barter/trade items for other items. And lastly, the workbench allows you to add and remove attachments that you have already unlocked. Now, aside missions and upgrades, you'll also be able to locate what is referred to as contracts within the DMZ. These will be marked on the map as little green phones. There are many different types of contracts, which are the following: the Secure Nuclear Material Contract, the Raid Weapon Stash Contract, the Eliminate HVT Contract, the Deliver Cargo Land Contract, the Ship Cargo Water Contract, the Destroy Supplies Contract, the Rescue Hostage Contract, Secure Intel Contract, Hunt Squad Contract, Secure Supplies Contract, and lastly, the Signals Intelligence Contract. Each of these has its own objectives that need to be completed and with their own unique rewards. They also attribute to the Exfil Streaks and dog tag rarity that we were talking about earlier on our active duty operators. Now, every time you load into the DMZ, there will be 3 locations marked on the map like this.
Marking extraction zone.
Now keep in mind that when your timer underneath your mini-map expires, the gas will begin to move. And once the gas covers one of these exfil points, the exfil point, as you will see here in just a moment, will no longer be usable. But keep in mind, if you do call in the chopper before the gas hits it, the chopper will still arrive to the exfil point, allowing you to leave. Now, once all 3 exfil points have been closed due to the gas, one more final exfil will appear on the map. This is going to be your last chance to escape the DMZ alive. And keep in mind, it's always going to be somewhat near the 3rd exfil that was then closed due to the gas, as you're going to see in just a moment. Now keep in mind, this is going to be your last chance to escape the DMZ alive, so make sure to run for that final exfil if all others have been closed. Now, there are still many things to be discovered within the DMZ, but I hope this will help new and returning players have somewhat of an idea of what to do and escape the DMZ alive. Now, if this content helped you, be sure to subscribe. It really helps me out, and you guys can also keep up to date by watching me live on the weekends or looking for my weekly videos. Anyways, have a good one. Peace.